Thank you for your understanding, Empress. I will definitely choose a good person who cares about all living beings to inherit the position of sage. Hanju cupped his fists and said sincerely. Niwa chuckled and said, that's all for now. In the future, there will be no Niwa in the heavenly Tao. You still have to rely on yourself. I can't interfere in the matters of the heavenly Tao. It's against the great Tao. Hanju nodded, I understand. I don't dare to trouble you, Empress. Niwa waved her sleeve and the dream shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. He exhaled. Sages were really good at this. Their schemes were deeper and deeper. Who could have expected that Niwa would not really die? Even the sages didn't know. No matter what, at least I didn't take on the heavenly Tao sage position or offend her. This is considered a success. Hanju thought silently. So far, he hadn't offended any of them. Sage Fated Secrets was different since the one who had offended him was the Dark Forbidden Lord. What had this got to do with him? Hanju sighed and didn't know what to say. Everything was arranged. He even obtained the sage position. What Hanju wanted to do now was to continue cultivating and strive to be invincible below the sages before entering the immortal world. But it was fine even if he couldn't. Even sages couldn't break in if he stayed in the Tao field. Wait. He had to be cautious. Can the array formation of the Tao field completely block the invasion of a heavenly Tao sage? Hanju asked in his mind. Unable to stop the invasion of many heavenly Tao sages, Hanju's eyelids twitched. It was still unsafe. It seemed that before the Tao field upgraded again, he still could not provoke sages. He had to be polite and cautious towards them. Hanju shook his head and laughed. He continued cultivating. You ovals up tes on Novlb, Kong Niwa's death made all the living beings in the heavenly Tao even crazier. After all the living beings knew that even sages were not eternal, they became more and more daring. They all wanted to fight for Providence in the calamity and even become Tao sages. The war between the heavenly court and the humans had already stopped, but the various factions who supported them had indeed begun to fight madly. Those who had grudges would take revenge, and those who did not would snatch resources. For a time, the immortal world was even more chaotic. Instantly, more and more factions surfaced, and more mighty figures became famous. As for the heavenly race, there was no sign of them for the time being. The Dark Forbidden Zone also began to become restless. 45 years later, Hidden Sect Island was attacked by another inauspicious deity. Hanju directly let it in and let Zhao Yun deal with it. Zhao Yun was the new guard, a replica of Shidu Dao. This was also Zhao Yun's first battle. With a raise of his hand, the inauspicious deity was directly suppressed on the beach and could not move. The Hidden Sect disciples were dumbfounded. This new guard was stronger than Lu Bu and Ma Chao. After Zhao Yun suppressed the inauspicious deity, the strange deity immediately devoured it and became stronger again. The Hidden Sect disciples couldn't see the strange deity. They thought that Zhao Yun's mystical power had destroyed the inauspicious deity's body and soul. After dealing with the inauspicious deity, Zhao Yun returned to the Fusang tree expressionlessly and guarded the spatial vortex. Shidu Dao's appearance was not as domineering as Zhu Tu's. He was even slightly thin and weak, but his eyes were extremely cold and sharp, making people not dare to look at him. On the other side, in the Khanate cave abode, Hanju looked worried. This time, the inauspicious deity seemed to be even stronger than the one from before. At this rate, the Dark Forbidden Zone would really be filled by inauspicious deities. If an inauspicious deity beyond the heavenly Tao Sage level appeared one day, it would not be good. Hanju moved Hidden Sect Island again. It would be bad if there was a connection between the inauspicious deities. Several days later, Hidden Sect Island stopped. Hanju continued cultivating and charged towards the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. In the immortal world, at the edge of the endless sea, at a cliff that stretched across the sea, as if isolating the sea here. Two figures stood on the cliff. They were Zhou Fan and Su Qi. Zhou Fan was dressed in black and wore a WYRM black jade crown. He held a huge cauldron in one hand and looked murderous. Su Qi was also dressed in black, but his hair was disheveled and his eyes were dark. Strange symbols crawled over his forehead. The two of them looked at each other and did not move for a long time. Zhou Fan slowly said, "I didn't expect my final opponent to be you." Su Qi said, "I didn't expect so many people from the tiny scarlet cloud world to face the calamity. What would Hanju think if he knew that we were fighting? He might sigh, but it won't affect his Dao heart. Our conflict might be child's play in his eyes." That's true. He should be charging into the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm now. Of course. My master's potential is unparalleled. Unparalleled in the world? Do you know the chaotic physique? I know. Aren't you the same? Ha ha. Zhou Fan laughed wantonly. Yellow chi flowed out of the cauldron and into his body. His aura began to increase. Su Qi's robes fluttered as the aura of misfortune erupted. Zhou Fan needed immeasurable merit to continue defying the heavens. Su Qi needed great providence to cleanse his bad luck. The two of them didn't want to avoid this battle. They weren't close to each other, anyway. They only knew Hanju. It wasn't enough for them to give up chasing each other. 10 years later, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed Sage Fated Secrets. At the same time, he habitually checked his emails. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was expelled by your good friend Choshilai and entered the deity realm of the ruins of End. Your good friend Tai Su Tian has received guidance from a sage. Her cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has joined the heavenly race and his providence has transformed. Your good friend Zhou Fan was attacked by your disciple Su Qi and was severely injured. Your disciple Su Qi was attacked by your good friend Zhou Fan and was severely injured. Your good friend Mo Ju received guidance from a sage and learned an immeasurable cultivation technique. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu. Seeing the Heavenly Emperor's situation, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Zhou Shilai had indeed fulfilled his promise. However, would it be dangerous for the Heavenly Emperor to go to the deity realm of the ruins of End? He had to calculate before dreaming. Hanju noticed that Moju had finally made a move. Previously, he had learned that Moju had been taken in as a disciple by the sect master of the human school, which meant that she had been taken in by Li Mui. Now that she had learned the immeasurable cultivation technique, it was also a good opportunity. If not for Li Mui wanting to rope Hanju in, Moju would have died in the immortal world. Hanju hoped that this beauty would live well, but he didn't take it to heart. Back then, he had already asked her to stay, but she insisted on leaving. In that case, she had to be responsible for her choice. Time could erase everything and prove everything. 5 days later, Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and asked in his mind, "Is there a sage beside the Heavenly Emperor? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue." "Yes." Hanju was depressed. Why was there more? Could it be that he had been following the Heavenly Emperor? Forget it, he would visit him in the future. Hanju prepared to continue cultivating. At this moment, he suddenly felt a powerful aura. It came from the Fusong tree. Space-time vortex. At the same time, on the Fusong tree, Zhao Yun and Ma Chao stood up at the same time and blocked the space-time vortex. A pair of cold eyes appeared in the vortex. I didn't expect to accidentally discover a space-time barrier. It's just nice for me to set up a Dao field. A cold laugh came from the spatial vortex. Humph, how impudent. Ma Chao roared angrily and immediately rushed into the spatial vortex. A sneer sounded. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? No wonder there's such a barrier. However, it's not enough. I want this place. His words made the Hidden Sect disciples nervous. After hiding on Hidden Sect Island for so long, they were all a little timid. At this moment, Zhao Yun suddenly stepped into the spatial vortex. in less than 3 breaths of time. How can this be? Who are you? Fellow Taoist. I was wrong. I'll leave immediately. Hearing this, everyone from the hidden sect heaved a sigh of relief and laughed. The black-held chicken cursed. That's it? You gave me goosebumps. The chaotic heavenly dog shouted, Senior Zhao is impressive. He will be my big brother from now on. The others also discussed. Zhao carried a white-haired man out of the spatial vortex. Ma Chao followed closely behind. The white-haired man curled up as if he was tied up by an invisible rope as Zhao threw him onto the tree trunk. On the other side, Hanju used the simulation trial to test this person's cultivation. Wu Dao, perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm, human loose cultivator. No powerful background? Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Wu Dao was able to suppress Ma Chao, who had Zhu Chu's cultivation, with extraordinary strength. After all, Zhu Chu was the strongest in the calamity of the immortal world, equivalent to the strongest Zenith Heaven cultivator. What should he do? He definitely couldn't let this guy go, or the spatial vortex might expose his location. Hanju sent a voice transmission to Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun looked down at Wu Dao with killing intent in his eyes, scaring him so much that he quickly shouted, Senior, I was wrong. I was also being hunted down and had no choice. Let me go and I definitely won't return. It's fine if you don't let me go. I'm willing to be a slave. Don't kill me. The higher his cultivation level, the more he cherished his life. Wu Dao didn't seem to have left any life preservation means elsewhere. He was extremely afraid. Zhao Yun carried Wu Dao into the Khanate cave abode and returned to the Fusang tree alone. The disciples were not worried about Hanju. Instead, they started to discuss if Wu Dao could survive. Liao said, it's best to kill him to prevent future trouble. Chu Shuren frowned. You're so evil. Dao Comprehension Sword snorted. Wasn't that fellow very arrogant just now? If we can't defeat him, do you think he will let us live? He didn't say that he wanted to kill us. It's just that he didn't get a chance. It's not good to kill too many people. Over time, you will have no regard for life and death. Seeing that the 3 of them were about to quarrel, the Black Hell Demon Lord smiled and said, perhaps he will survive. After all, I was beaten into submission. Zhao Xianyuan said proudly, I'm different. I have good judgment and took the initiative to come. He had already joined the hidden sect for a period of time. Every time Zhao Xianyuan thought of the past, he couldn't help but sigh. This was the best decision he had ever made in his life. In the past, he had always listened to the arrangements of his elders and rarely made decisions himself. Leaving the human race and becoming Hanju's disciple was definitely the most important decision in his life as the #1 prodigy of the human race. On the other side, inside the Khanate cave abode, Hanju stared at Wu Dao and asked, how's the situation in the Kiliakazan world? Who are you being hunted down by? Wu Dao replied nervously, recently, the Kiliakazan world has been in chaos. The various Providence sects have been fighting non-stop. The sages have never appeared. I'm being hunted by my enemies. I really know my mistake. Let me go. Hanju asked, if I let you go, will you hate me? How can this be? Wu Dao has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 3 stars. Wu Dao cursed in his heart. How could he not hate them? He was also a famous mighty figure in the Kiliakazan world. At his peak, 1 million disciples had listened to him preach the Tao. If not for his current state, the more he thought about it, the more his heart ached. Hanju sighed and directly sucked Wu Dao into the world of stars before killing him. Wu Dao didn't even have time to react. He had just appeared in the world of stars when he was killed by a punch from the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial Dharma Idol. His body and soul were destroyed. Unfortunately, you're not kind enough. You came to find trouble and I wanted to let you go. Shouldn't you be grateful to me? Hanju thought expressionlessly. The current hidden sect no longer needed to absorb experts. Instead of absorbing unstable foreign experts, it was better to nurture them from the inside. Apart from his disciples, the 10,000 Nether race members also had great potential. Ever since Empress Hutu entrusted the Nether race to him, they treated Hanju as their father. They even established stone statues that worshipped him in their territory. Currently, the Nether race and the hidden sect had yet to completely fuse, but they would occasionally interact. The black hell chicken and the chaotic heavenly dog liked to play with them the most. Then, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. He didn't move Hidden Sect Island. After all, the spatial vortex was located at the end of the Kiliocosm world and could not be moved. Several months later, since Wu Dao did not walk out of the cave abode, the disciples knew that he was gone. The Black Hell Demon Lord guessed that Wu Dao must have felt hatred and was detected by Hanju. He had interacted with Duan Hongchen before and felt that Hanju had the ability to see through people's inner thoughts. His guess convinced the others. Hanju would never slaughter the innocent, but once he was threatened, he would definitely not show mercy. Chu Shuren didn't say much. He didn't believe others, but he believed Hanju's judgment. Ever since they followed Hanju, they no longer encountered any danger. They could cultivate in peace every day. This was even safer than the Buddhist sect. Under the sky filled with rolling thunderclouds, the ground was stained with blood. The mountains and rivers were broken as if they had been bombed by a terrifying force. No place was intact. Su Qi leaned against a huge broken stone, gasping and staring at the sky. Countless living beings gathered in the sky and the ground, surrounding him. Looking up, there were human cultivators, demons, dragons, vermilion birds, qilin, and so on in all directions. All the living beings looked at him with killing intent, hatred, and anger. Su Qi had fought for the heavenly court for so many years. His bad luck had spread to almost every corner of the immortal world. He had offended too many enemies. Now that the heavenly court had been defeated and was preparing to retreat, Su Qi became the target of everyone's anger. Su Qi, you can't escape. The immortals won't save you. A human cultivator laughed angrily. His voice resounded through the world, causing the other living beings to curse out loud. All sorts of ugly words entered his ears. You updates, T and Vel Bai. Calm. Su Qi wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled. You want to find me for revenge? But do you remember how many sins you have committed? Sin is sin. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. I, Su Qi, have done it. I admit it. But if you want to kill me, just attack. Stop talking nonsense and stop trying to comfort the uneasiness in your hearts. Su Qi flew up as he spoke. The aura of misfortune overflowed and surrounded him. This scene frightened the living beings so much that they retreated, not daring to be the first to attack him. Boom! 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 The ground shook violently as terrifying footsteps came from the horizon. Everyone turned their heads and saw a 30 kilometers tall figure walking over. Su Qi, you slaughtered my race. Today, I will definitely destroy your soul. A furious roar exploded. Su Qi frowned, feeling the pressure. At this moment, a voice sounded in his ears. Do you want to end everything? As long as you are willing to use your mystical power, the calamity will end. The living beings who survived will be grateful to you. You can even obtain heavenly Dao merit because you stopped the endless calamity. But he thought of Hanju's words. This was a trap. Su Qi looked up and saw a huge figure appear at the end of the world. These figures were at least at the deity realm. At this moment, Su Qi felt sorrow. Others would always fight in groups, but he would always be alone, be it for himself or for the heavenly court. Su Qi thought of the invocation technique. He could ask Hanju for help. Although he didn't care about them, he believed that if he used the invocation technique, Hanju would definitely help. No! How can I have such thoughts? Master has already helped me a lot. How can I drag him into the calamity? Su Qi's eyes became even more ruthless. Since that was the case, he could only risk it. At most, he would die. I've lived enough in this life. Su Qi raised his right hand and laughed wildly. Today, I want to see who can kill me. You ovals up Tez on Novlb. Calm with that said, all the living beings in the world flew into a rage and charged at him. The scene froze. Su Qi, who was surrounded by all living beings, was so tiny. He was like a piece of rubble in the forest, and he would be drowned by all living beings in the next moment. In the blink of an eye, another 40 years had passed since he had killed Wu Dao. On this day, Hanju was uneasy. He was a Zenith Heaven cultivator and would not develop emotions for no reason. Something must have happened. He immediately checked the emails. Your disciple Su Qi used the Tao Destruction mystical power. His providence has fallen greatly. Your good friend Mo Fuzhou was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Xu Jingxing was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Shen Qingjun was attacked by a mysterious force. Fortunately, the providence of the heavenly race protected her. Your good friend Flame Lord Emperor was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Huang Zuntian was attacked by a mysterious force. Fortunately, the providence of the heavenly race protected him. Your good friend Han Ming was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Han Ming obtained the help of a sage and was revived with the last trace of his soul. As he watched, many died. Everyone in the heavenly court was about to die. Hanju frowned. Why was Su Qi still using the Tao Destruction mystical power? Hanju asked, how many living beings have died because of Su Qi? 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. 90% of the living beings were wiped out. The exact number is immeasurable. Hanju remained silent. So many. Hanju checked Su Qi's cultivation. It was at the rank 1 Immortal Emperor realm, but after using the Tao Destruction mystical power, it would decrease by a major realm. In other words, Su Qi had already reached the deity realm. Too ruthless. Was this the Tao Destruction mystical power? If a sage used it, wouldn't all the living beings in the heavenly Tao die? Chou wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? Chou wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? Chou wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? This fellow was too impatient. Accept. Hanju's consciousness entered the dream. It was still the familiar hall and the familiar golden Buddha. Chou Shilai said in a low voice, your disciple Su Qi used the Tao Destruction mystical power to slaughter all living beings and forcefully ended the immeasurable calamity. Shocked, Hanju asked, Tao Destruction mystical power? What is that? How can he be so capable? He became more and more terrified. As if he had heard some amazing news. How great of a sin is this? Hanju muttered to himself. Regardless of whether Chou Shilai believed this act or not, he convinced himself that he didn't know about this at all. Chou Shilai sighed. It's not only the immortal world. The other mortal worlds are the same. They're deathly silent. Your disciple is doomed. I can't save him, either. Hanju showed a frown. Chou Shilai changed the topic. He has to die. Otherwise, it will be difficult to appease the anger of the other sages, and we won't be able to give the heavenly Tao an explanation. I can only help him leave behind a trace of his remnant soul. I'll hand him to you in the future. From now on, he's not allowed to appear within the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, his body and soul will be destroyed. Hanju knew that this was the best outcome. He hurriedly thanked Chou Shilai and asked curiously, where did my disciple learn such a powerful mystical power? Chou Shilai sighed. The Tao Destruction mystical power was passed down by the Tao ancestor to the sages. I believe that your disciple was also used by a sage. As for who it is, I can't tell you for the time being. You can't withstand the karma of the sages. I'm doing this for your own good. Hanju was silent. It seemed that Qiushilai might be on the same side as Sage Fated Secrets. He would derive it after returning. In any case, he didn't completely trust Qiushilai and Nuwa. It was just that he was not strong enough and could only pretend to trust them. The calamity is considered to have ended. In 10 years, the sages will disperse the negative karma of the world. After that, you can return to the immortal world at any time. Hanju asked, when can the immortal world be filled with living beings? Qiushilai said, in the nurturing of the world, all kinds of living beings will eventually be born. You can also use this opportunity to preach and establish a sect. 10 million years later, you will be a mighty figure respected by all living beings in the world, just like the past Buddha, the Heavenly Emperor, and the Demon Emperor. Hanju sighed. Immeasurable calamity, death calamity. Only a few people could escape this calamity. Living beings cultivated in peace. With the accumulation of time, they would surpass all living beings sooner or later. It was equivalent to cultivating countless years earlier than the new living beings. Even ordinary living beings could become mighty figures. After the calamity ends, the sages can no longer attack under the heavenly Tao. You can rest assured about this. The one who controls all living beings is the heavenly race. The leader is an old friend of yours. You will know in the future. In other words, you can return in peace. There won't be any danger. The dream shattered. Hanju realized that he had returned to reality. He asked, is what Qiushilai said just now true? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. But when he really returned to the immortal world, he had to do something. Hanju continued to ask, what's his relationship with Sage Fated Secrets? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. According to favorability, they have a 3-star favorability. Says stars. In other words, they were in the same boat for the time being, but there was a possibility that they would break up. Indeed, he couldn't trust Qiushilai completely. Hanju thought silently. When he thought of how the calamity had ended and the heavenly Tao had restarted, Hanju sighed. Fortunately, he had moved the reroll world out in advance. Otherwise, it would have been destroyed. Wait! In that case, wouldn't the reroll world be the only mortal world below the heavenly Tao? If he developed a little. Hanju's heart beat faster, and he didn't dare to think about it. He could already see endless power and benefits surging towards him. As long as he worked hard, he might even become the most powerful existence below the sages. He was even stronger than the past heavenly emperor, Zhu, the heavenly Tao Buddha, and other ambitious figures. Something's wrong. This is a trap. To destroy a person, one must first make them mad with greed. The sage wants to harm me. I can't appear on the surface, but I can support my disciples. Before the next calamity, if I become a sage, the other heavenly Tao sages will definitely not be my match. And all the major factions below the heavenly Tao are branches of the hidden sect. Doesn't that mean? The more Hanju thought about it, the faster his heart beat. After being controlled by the sages for so long, it was time for him to rise. I still have to be careful. How can I fight with the sages? Unless I can insta-kill them, I can only fight with them. Before that, I can't have any such intentions. It's easy to be discovered. The Tao ancestor is my role model. He was already invincible when he appeared. Hanju adjusted his state of mind. It had to be said that Qiushilai's words were too bewitching. Not to mention him, anyone else wouldn't be able to withstand it. Hanju decided that he couldn't compete with them before surpassing the heavenly Tao sage level. Before that, he had to maintain a low-profile cultivation attitude. Then, Hanju continued cultivating. He had to break through to the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm before he could break through to the Pseudo-Sage Realm. 10 years went by quickly. A pillar of light suddenly descended on the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal Mountain. Hanju, who was in the cave abode, was also enveloped by the strong light. Detected that the heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity has ended and the heavenly Tao has restarted. You have obtained the providence of the immeasurable emperor. You have the following choices. 1. Return to the heavenly Tao immortal world and make preparations to become a legend in the future. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a chance to activate a new function of the system. 2. Never return to the immortal world. Stay in the dark forbidden zone. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance and a great Tao fragment. Immeasurable Emperor? Hanju decided not to choose for the time being. He would choose when he returned to the immortal world. The new function of the system was too attractive. He placed his attention on the Immeasurable Emperor title. The Immeasurable Emperor title meant that he had already entered the calamity and could be considered to have survived. What's the use of the Immeasurable Emperor's providence? It can help you resist the bewitchment of the heavenly Tao's negative karma. You won't lose your mind in the next immeasurable calamity. That's it? Hanju secretly felt disdain. Hanju checked his interpersonal relationships and discovered that Zhao Shenyuan, Dao Sovereign, Jiang Yi, Murongqi, Xing Hongshen, Fang Liang, Ji Xianshen, Su Qi, Huang Zuntian, and the others had also obtained the title of Immeasurable Emperor. Almost all the existences who survived the calamity obtained the providence of the Immeasurable Emperor. People like the Black Hell Chicken and Sun Chang'an, who had been staying in the Dao field, did not obtain it. Because after the calamity started, they did not go out at all. The dark forbidden zone doesn't belong to the heavenly Tao. How can the providence of the heavenly Tao reach me? Hanju was secretly surprised. The ability of the heavenly Tao was really strange. Wait, does the immeasurable emperor's providence come from the heavenly Tao or the great Tao? Hanju asked in his mind. 5 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Great Tao. I knew it. The great Tao was everywhere, higher than the heavenly Tao. Although the dark forbidden zone was far from the heavenly Tao, it was also under the great Tao. Hanju continued to ask, if I return to the heavenly Tao now, will I be killed by a sage? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Detected that the order of the heavenly Tao has been restored and the restrictions on the heavenly Tao sages have also been restored. The sages can't enter the myriad worlds with their true body and can't directly kill the living beings in the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, they will suffer a backlash from the heavenly Tao. No wonder the sages all moved in the calamity. They usually stayed in the 33rd heaven. It was because of the heavenly Tao's rules. He really couldn't be a heavenly Tao sage. Although they became undying, they also lost their freedom. Then again, if the heavenly Tao sages couldn't attack under the heavenly Tao, could they attack in the dark forbidden zone? Was the dark forbidden zone even more dangerous? Hanju decided to return after reaching the perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Before the calamity started again, even if a sage wanted to kill him, they could only ask other mighty figures to help. However, a pseudo-sage couldn't enter his Tao field. Hanju said, everyone, hurry up and cultivate. After some time, prepare to return to the immortal world. His voice resounded throughout the Tao field. Hearing this, everyone became excited, and some were nervous. We're finally going back. Could it be that the calamity has ended? That's right. I just obtained great providence and learned that the calamity has ended. This calamity was really fast. It's unprecedented. Only a few thousand years? It's very likely that sages were involved. There's no choice. Sages are too powerful. Once they enter the calamity, how can all living beings play? After confirming that he was prepared to return to the immortal world, Hanju sped up his cultivation. It had been more than 500 years since the last breakthrough. According to the time, he was about to break through. The zenith heaven realm was really difficult to cultivate. Hanju couldn't imagine how determined those cultivators who used millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of years to break through a minor realm war. After Su Qi used the Tao Destruction mystical power, Hanju's emails became much quieter. He might not even receive an email per year. It was really quiet after the calamity ended. Time passed quickly. 97 years later, Hanju finally had the chance to break through. It took him 6 years to break through. Name, Hanju. Race, primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation, perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering. Great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma. His lifespan had broken through again. Overwhelmed by quintillion. Hanju was in a good mood. The lifespan he had squandered previously had all been refreshed. He wondered if he could reach the pseudo-sage realm before reaching 10,000 years old. Hanju began to consolidate his cultivation. After spending 5 years, he completely stabilized his cultivation level and began to improve his Sword Dao mystical powers. Half a year later, Hanju's various Sword Dao mystical powers reached their limits. All of them reached the pseudo-sage level. His mystical powers had already reached the level of a pseudo-sage. He only needed to increase his cultivation level. Hanju began to cultivate the grand unity aspect. The sixth fiend celestial Dharma idol was the scarlet clear fiend celestial. It possessed the power of the sun and could burn all things. The seventh fiend celestial Dharma idol was the weak water fiend celestial. This water was extremely heavy and could sink all existences. The eighth fiend celestial Dharma idol, the extreme darkness fiend celestial, possessed the great Tao of darkness and could envelop all the senses of living beings with darkness. In 2 years, Hanju cultivated 3 fiend celestial Dharma idols. After that, he didn't obtain the cultivation memories of the 9th fiend celestial Dharma idol. With 8 fiend celestials attacking together, who could compete with him? Hanju began the simulation trial. This time, he was really invincible below the sages. However, he couldn't insta-kill existences whose cultivation had reached the late-stage pseudo-sage. For example, Shi Dao. Hanju fought for 5 minutes before killing him. Shi Dao could devour all mystical powers, but he couldn't devour the power of the great Tao. He still had a defensive supreme treasure. The 8 chaotic fiend celestials surrounded him for 5 minutes before he exploded into nothingness. As for Li Daokong and the others, they had already been insta-killed by Hanju. His chapter is updat D by NOVE, L, Bayan Koem. No one below the sages should be able to kill him. Of course, this was only Hanju's guess. After all, he was referencing the listeners of the Great Ultimate Hall. Perhaps there were many powerful existences hidden in the Heavenly Tao or other Heavenly Tao worlds. No matter what, Hanju could return to the immortal world now. He immediately controlled Hidden Sect Island to fly to the immortal world. In the dark forbidden zone, his senses could not work. However, he could sense the 6 paths insignia. Fang Liang, Huang Zuantian, and the others had 6 paths insignia in their souls. They were all in the same direction, probably the immortal world. Is it dangerous for me to return to the immortal world now? Hanju asked in his mind. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. After all, on the surface, he no longer had any enemies. Other than sage-fated secrets, almost all the people who hated him were dead. You need to reach the Heavenly Tao immortal world before you can choose this option. Hanju could only give up. Although he could sense the existence of the 6 paths insignia, Hidden Sect Island had moved in the dark forbidden zone many times. It was too far from the immortal world and could not reach it anytime soon. Thinking of the 6 paths insignia, Hanju couldn't help but think of immortal Emperor Samsara. This fellow had not moved for a long time. From his interpersonal relationships, he could see that he was still alive. It was worth mentioning that immortal Emperor Samsara was at the mid-stage of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. To be able to hide beside the Heavenly Emperor and not be discovered, he was naturally not inferior to the Heavenly Emperor's cultivation. However, he was no longer anything impressive in Hanju's eyes. Ever since he started cursing sage-fated secrets, Hanju no longer cared about the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Thinking back, Hanju shook his head and laughed. Not long ago, he had also treated Immortal Emperor Samsara as a powerful enemy. Unfortunately, as time passed, Immortal Emperor Samsara had already left the competition stage in Hanju's eyes. This was potential. Hanju didn't need to fight. As long as he hid somewhere and cultivated in peace, the enemy would probably be surpassed by him before they could even react. I have to attain the Tao before the next immeasurable calamity comes. Hanju set a goal for himself. The immeasurable calamity had begun. With the heavenly secrets concealed, sages could descend into the mortal world. At that time, the heavenly Tao immortal world would become dangerous. According to the past, it was still very far from the next immeasurable calamity. After all, the divine palace had risen during the end of the immeasurable calamity. If it became famous again, its development time would definitely not be short. 7 years later, Hidden Sect Island finally entered the immortal world. Hanju controlled the island to continue forward and used his divine sense to observe everything along the way. The ground was desolate, no greenery could be seen. Many blood lakes had yet to dry. The sky was dark and there was no sun. Everything looked so silent and desolate. Hanju sighed. For several days, he didn't see a single living being. One had to know that the speed of flying on Hidden Sect Island was not slow. In his previous life, in a few days, one could circle around the galaxy. This was the first time Hanju truly felt how big the immortal world was. It far exceeded his imagination. It was endless. Such a vast land endured fighting for thousands of years until all living beings were dead. It was truly terrifying. Hidden Sect Island continued forward. Hanju had to choose a clean place to land. As for the spirit chi, he didn't think too much about it. No place in the entire immortal world had more spirit chi than his Tao field. After a year, Hanju finally found a clean mountain range that stretched for 1,000,000 miles. The forest undulated and was full of life, but there were no traces of living beings. Hidden Sect Island landed in a forest. It was like a small stone landing on a pile of leaves, inconspicuous. Hanju walked out of the Khanate cave abode and waved his right hand, moving everyone out of the Tao field. Then, he followed. The Nether Race and Hidden Sect disciples landed in the forest, stunned. This is the immortal world. From now on, we will stay here. All of you are not allowed to leave a radius of 1,000,000 miles. Establish a residence nearby and build the Hidden Sect. Hanju spoke, his voice entering everyone's ears. Everyone became excited. They had finally returned to the immortal world. The disciples who had never been to the immortal world were a little nervous. Hanju returned to Hidden Sect Island. You choose to return to the Heavenly Tao immortal world and obtain a great Tao fragment and a chance to activate a new function of the system. System has activated the Absolute Purification function. Absolute Purification, it can purify Dharma treasures, living beings, natural treasures, and other negative elements, including restrictions and curses. The price is lifespan deduction. Purification? Hanju was disappointed. That's it? He thought about it and asked in his mind, are you sure it's any negative factor? If the Great Tao Sages curse me or cast a forbidden spell on me, can I also purify it? Yes, as long as you are willing to spend enough lifespan. That was good. Hanju had no lack of lifespan to spend. Let me try it myself first. Hanju thought silently. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? It was about the same price as the derivation function. Hanju could still accept it. If purification took trillions of years or even more, What would happen? A strange heat flowed in Hanju's body. It was warm and comfortable and a little itchy. 10 minutes later. Purification has ended. Perfect state. Hanju smiled and stopped studying this function. CHCK for EWSD rise on no VL bin. Silencio he had already gathered 9 grey Dao fragments. Next, he began to fuse them. He took out the 9 grey Dao fragments and began to fuse them. This time, his goal was to create a great Dao that belonged to him. An hour later, the 9 great Dao fragments fused and Hanju entered the great Dao comprehension. Endless inspiration and ideas burst forth in his mind. He had always kept one thought. New great Dao. In the continuous mountains and rivers, the hidden sect disciples and 10,000 nether race members were wandering in groups. Among them, Zhao Xianyuan, Dao Sovereign, and Jiangyi walked together aimlessly. The 3 of them were previously the #1 prodigies of their major factions. They had common topics to talk about, so they were close. The negative karma of the world has dissipated. The calamity has truly ended. Dao Sovereign sighed. He was the last to join the hidden sect. When he left, the negative karma of the world was so dense that it was visible to the naked eye. It was like the Yellow Springs Purgatory. Zhao Xianyuan smiled and said, "Fortunately, we joined the hidden sect. Otherwise, how could we obtain the providence of the immeasurable emperor?" Jiangyi looked around and interrupted them. "This area doesn't seem simple. I feel like I've been here before." Zhao Xianyuan and Dao Sovereign also started to observe carefully when they heard this. After a while, Dao Sovereign suddenly said in surprise, "This seems to be the old location of the Qilan race. No wonder the mountains and rivers in this area aren't affected. It's the Qilan's auspicious qi that's resisting the negative karma of the world." Jiangyi asked curiously, "Why isn't there a Qilan here?" Zhao Xianyuan added, "Could they all be dead?" Dao Sovereign and Jiangyi's eyelids twitched. Their cultivation levels were not weak. Their divine sense covered more than 1,000,000 kilometers. Other than the hidden sect, they did not capture any traces of a living being. They suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. Were all the living beings in the immortal world dead? They looked at each other and flew up to observe their surroundings. Hanju wouldn't allow them to leave a radius of 1,000,000 miles, but they could use their clone mystical powers to investigate. A year later, the 3 of them came to a conclusion. All living beings of the heavenly Tao were really gone. Not to mention a radius of 1,000,000 miles, even when their clones traveled through several regions, they did not see a single living being. They told the others of the hidden sect about this, shocking them. After sighing, they began to rejoice in following Hanju. If they didn't cultivate diligently with Hanju, they would have probably died in the calamity.